Welcome to this edition of Labor Vision. I'm Bob Delaney, Executive Director of the Institute for Labor Studies and Research. Labor Vision, a production of the Institute, focuses on topics of importance to working Rhode Island families. We hope you enjoy this evening's edition.
First of all, my name's Andrew Cortez. I'm the proud director of Building Futures, and I am joined today by a team of incredible staff. If it wasn't for them, this event would not be possible. But thank you all, first and foremost, for helping us celebrate this remarkable milestone today. 200 people have been placed into exceptional apprenticeships of the building trades unions here, and we're here to celebrate that here today. And thank you, Secretary of State. It does not seem like that long ago that we developed a pilot pre-apprenticeship program. We were basically honing a model to close the skills gap that we found in the entrance to apprenticeship. In 2008, we started to implement a twofold strategy to ensure the vitality of the construction sector, because construction had an advantage over many, many industries out there. Apprenticeship. Our strategies bookend the registered apprenticeship programs in the construction sector, designed by unions and employers with constant improvement that's driven by the needs of the construction industry. These programs have been in operation for well over 100 years. Apprenticeships work, and the evidence overwhelmingly shows it. So Building Futures had a clear path to address the workforce development challenges found in the construction sector. We had to leverage these exceptional apprenticeships to develop the next generation of talent. So, we ensure that people who need economic opportunity are ready for apprenticeship through our comprehensive pre-apprenticeship program. And we looked at the industry, and the data showed that we needed more active apprentices on project sites now. Apprenticeships take 3 to 5 years to complete. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to meet the demand for skilled labor that's coming in the future. Rhode Island residents need these opportunities and need to be well prepared for them. The current workforce is retiring. So, we help increase the number of apprentices on current construction sites through our apprentice utilization program. These two core strategies, pre-apprenticeship to prepare entry-level talent, and the apprenticeship utilization program at the appropriate scale, help meet the labor demands of tomorrow. That's what's brought us here to celebrate this day. 200 graduates have been placed into apprenticeship. Employers and families gaining economic security. And residents are prepared to meet the needs of Rhode Island employers on this important project and those to come. Our graduates motivate our efforts, and they demonstrate the importance of building futures. Transformative changes are made possible through registered apprenticeship, and it's happening on the project behind us right now. But these results do not happen by accident, but rather they happen through effective partnerships, and that's what it takes to meet the economic needs of our residents, businesses, and industry. So it's my honor to introduce our first speaker, someone who is well-versed in effective partnerships, someone who understands well that the economic needs of our residents and business must be met together. I cannot possibly acknowledge the long list of the accomplishments under her administration, actions that demonstrate her understanding of what it takes to build prosperity in our great state. Of course, while the list of accomplishments is long, creating funding mechanisms to address our infrastructure needs, from schools to highway construction, all of that is very high on our list. So without further ado, please help me welcome our governor, Gina Raimondo.
Thank you, Andrew, and good morning.
Good morning.
Love that energy. It is really wonderful to be here, Andrew. You're doing a great job. Michael Sabatoni, all the members of the labor trades who are here today, all of my colleagues in government, Congressman Langevin, Congressman Cicilline, Mayor Lorza, who's off fresh from a terrific PVD festival this weekend. I see Representative Ruggenberg here, the head of labor and training, Scott Jensen. This is, as you say, it's a real team effort. It's a partnership effort. As I've said from the beginning, we're going to move this state forward, we're going to rebuild Rhode Island, and everybody has a role to play. And this is proof that we're doing it. This is a collaboration between the public sector and the private sector, the labor trades, the commercial sector, everybody coming together to move Rhode Island forward. And that, if we're just going to continue to do that, and over time, we're going to put ourselves forward. It's beginning to work. Our unemployment rate dropped more last year than almost any other state in the country. And every day, it seems, we're launching a new program like this one that's putting people to work. So my primary message is to say thank you. Every one of you here has had a key role in this apprenticeship program, and I want to thank you for your effort. I especially want to thank Scott Jensen. He and I are huge supporters of apprenticeship programs. We continue to leverage federal dollars for apprenticeship programs. We hosted the Secretary of Labor the other day, and he had a great line. He said, apprenticeship is like college without the student loans. And that's exactly right. So I'm a big believer in apprenticeships. We're going to continue to invest in apprenticeships. People need skills. People need relevant skills to get high-paying jobs. And apprenticeship programs are proven to be successful at getting people the skills they need to get a good job without the student loans. And we have partnered successfully with Apprenticeship RI, but also the Real Jobs Rhode Island program, which is working successfully. Building Futures is using over $100,000 in grant funding to develop apprenticeships in maritime safety, rigging, and scaffolding to meet the employer demand on many projects, including the Deepwater Wind project. Our job is to make sure the people of Rhode Island have skills they need so they can get high-paying jobs, and it's to do it in partnership with business. And in the business community, your job is to let us know what skills you need and to commit yourselves to continue to put people to work in Rhode Island. So we're going to continue to do our job, and you guys continue to invest in Rhode Island, and we'll continue to have opportunities like this to announce great job-creating projects in Rhode Island. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor. Without the assistance from the Governor and her administrations, Building Futures wouldn't be possible. From RIOT to the Rhode Island Department of Labor and Training, we deeply appreciate the partnerships that allow us to achieve these results for Rhode Island. So I'll extend my personal thanks to Director Jensen as well, and Director Alviti, who I'm not sure if could make it here today, but I'll tell you, without these two key state agencies, Building Futures would not be as robust and successful as it is today. So, while Senator Reid and White House are unable to join us today, I am immensely grateful for their long-standing support. In fact, Senator Reid said to us that he feels this partnership is a great example of how federal and state government working closely with community organizations can help individuals connect to opportunities and build stronger communities. In fact, I am very appreciative of what an exceptional congressional delegation Rhode Island has every day. Our next speaker is adept at achieving results for Rhode Island. Consistently, Congressman Langevin addresses issues important to us all, from child welfare to cybersecurity, and a personal favorite of mine, animal welfare. As co-chair of the Congressional Career and Technical Education Caucus, there is no doubt that Congressman Langevin understands the needs to develop a skilled workforce for the 21st century. Please help me welcome Congressman Jim Langevin.
Andrew, thank you very much, and my congratulations on this outstanding program and the 200th placement of an apprentice in a good-paying job. This is a wonderful, wonderful milestone. I'm thrilled to be here, of course, with my colleagues in government, Governor Raimondo and Congressman Cicilline, Mayor Lorza, members of the General Assembly, our Secretary of State, City Council here as well, and I don't want to miss anybody, but I also want to salute the building trades, Michael Sabatoni, and all the leaders of the trades, the men and women who make up our workforce here in our state, moving Rhode Island forward. This is a program that I truly believe in, and really today's turnout is a broad show of support for apprenticeships in Rhode Island, and it just proves how critical it is to the success of our workers, our employers, and the state as a whole. I've often said that, look, we can't expect businesses to grow here if we don't have the skilled workforces to do the jobs that are available. We're not going to be able to continue our robust building programs here in the state that we see with the nursing school if we don't have that feeder pipeline of good workers to do these jobs that are available. And that's why I'm a huge proponent of apprenticeship. And by the way, if we want new businesses to relocate to Rhode Island, we have to have the workforce to do the jobs that they would do once they get to Rhode Island. So I'm a big fan of the governor's tagline of giving our workers skills that matter and jobs that pay. I think that's a great model for our state to adopt. And really the best part of apprenticeships is that they allow students to learn both in the classroom and with direct on-the-job training. So apprentices are able to learn the skills that are directly applicable to the career that they're in and put their skills to use immediately. By allowing students to learn both in the classroom and from real-world experience, I know that we can help them develop specific workplace skills earlier in their careers. What's more, public-private partnerships harness both the speed of the business community and the teaching expertise of our education system. So it's a wonderful recognition of the strengths that all parties truly bring to the table. As Andrew mentioned, as co-chair of the Career and Technical Education Caucus, I've long called for expanding apprenticeships so that everyone has the skills necessary to succeed in their chosen careers and the exposure to decide on a career field first place. So, in closing, let me just say this. Last year, we reauthorized the Elementary and Secondary Education Act. I put in an amendment which passed, which basically encourages states to adopt apprenticeship models, because these programs have a proven record of success, and we need to expand these choices for students every day. So thank you all very much for being here today. It's a wonderful milestone celebrating our 200th place of an apprenticeship in a great paying job, and I look forward to hearing about many more to come. Thank you.
So, Pat McGuigan of the Providence Plan, standing in the audience today, Michael Sabatoni sitting here, Scott Duhamel of the Building Trades, Greg Mancini of Build RI, and Bill Bryan of Gilbane Building Company, along with others, began this partnership back in 2007. These are core partners who are still with us today and need to be thanked and appreciated for helping us to achieve these successes. So thank you. But at that time, we also had an exceptional partner in City Hall. He helped us launch Building Futures. He stood with us just a few blocks away when we placed the 30th Providence resident at the Warren Alpert Medical School in partnership with Brown University. And I'll tell you, that support did not stop when he took his talents and passion for Rhode Island to Washington, D.C. In fact, he was supporting Building Futures even when we weren't looking. I found a rose on the floor of Congress to recognize Building Futures in front of the entire nation by accident, just searching for something online, and I found this in the congressional record. But that's what a real partner does. A real partner provides support whether asked or not. I've consistently been impressed with and indebted to the kindness of our next speaker, Congressman David Cicilline.
First of all, I can't believe you just admitted to everyone that you don't get my video clips. You can subscribe to that so it won't be a surprise. But anyway, I am really delighted to be here. Thank you, Andrew, for your nice words. I am delighted to be here with our governor and my colleague in the House, Congressman Langevin, with Mayor Loers. Also, congratulations on Prov Fest, PVD Fest, with Councilwoman Matos, Representative Regenberg, our extraordinary Secretary of State, and so many other partners in this work. And I want to begin by acknowledging the building trades and the great union leadership here today. Michael Sabatoni, Paul McDonald, all of the great labor leaders of our state. This apprenticeship program would not have happened but for the early commitment and financial support by the building trade. So I want to ask you to applaud all of our great leaders. I know George Nee is also here, one of our other great labor leaders. But this has been a really extraordinary partnership. And when you think about the name of Building Futures, it is really more than just a job training program. It is really about building a future. And when you hear from Orlando and Brittany, you will be really moved by the way it has transformed their lives. Building Futures has helped to transform this city. It has helped to transform the lives of 200 graduates, and it will continue to have an enormous impact on Providence and on Rhode Island. I also want to particularly acknowledge our private sector partners, some of whom you'll hear from today. Brown University, Gil Bain, Dick Galvin. This doesn't happen without a partnership with the private sector. And this is everyone recognizing that we all benefit from a well-trained workforce that is capable of doing work in the 21st century, that it improves the quality of the workmanship, it improves the quality of the final product, but it really required an understanding that this was an investment worth making. When you consider half of the construction workforce is 45 years or older, this is an urgent challenge for our state and really for our country. And Building Futures really satisfies that demand, helps to transform people's lives. I want to acknowledge Pat McGuigan because this would not have happened without the Providence Plan and their very early support, the Providence Foundation, which is also an early partner. But this is a great example of what Rhode Island can do when we all come together with a common objective and with a shared sense of responsibility. So congratulations to everyone, and most particularly congratulations to the graduates.
Well, thanks very much to Jim for inviting me, to Scott for that wonderful introduction, to Karen McInich for doing the promotion on this talk, and to Local 328 UFCW for the hall. And thanks to all of you for coming. You know, it's a real honor to be here. As Jim said, I was in the labor movement before I joined academia. My first job out of college was actually with District 1199 here in Providence. I organized the service and maintenance workers at Butler Hospital. That's my main claim to fame, the big victory of my time here. I actually shared an office with Warren Heyman, who's sitting in the back. So that's my other claim to fame.
You need to be a little louder.
Okay. So it really is an honor to be here with you today. On December 6th, 2012, a Republican-controlled Michigan legislature passed right-to-work legislation, allowing workers in this long-time labor stronghold to receive the benefits of union contracts without having to pay the dues or service fees that support the daily operation of unions. Amid mounting protests from thousands of union members outside the state capitol in Lansing, Republican Governor Rick Snyder said that the law was, quote, about being pro-worker, about giving the freedom to choose who they associate with, end quote. Though right-to-work laws make it extremely difficult for unions to represent their members and secure strong contracts, Governor Snyder added, quote, I support the unions in many regards. I support their right to organize. This has nothing to do with collective bargaining. I continue to be an advocate of collective bargaining in Michigan, end quote. A century and a half earlier, in a town 3 hours west of Lansing, Republican Mayor and Tribune editor Joseph Medill spoke before throngs of Chicago workers striking for the 8-hour day. In a move of either astonishing faith in his fellow man or outright effrontery, Medill declared, quote, journeymen have the lawful right to combine by trades or unions. but they have no legal right to compel any outside worker to accept their conditions or to sell his labor only at their price, for that would be to destroy his personal freedom and liberty of action, end quote. Though separated by 140 years, the two sets of statements are based on the same premise. The spokesmen of the Republican Party, past and present, concede the right of workers to assemble and to set rules for their own organizations, but employ the rhetoric of liberty in ways that undermine the workers' most effective strategy for improving their wages and working conditions. In each case, the weakening of workers' collective power is justified as a safeguard to individual freedom. Governor Snyder speaks of the workers' right to associate with whomever he likes, while Medill cautions against infringing on the individual worker's personal freedom and liberty of action. Although free riders are often hated for reaping all the benefits of the team's efforts while doing none of the work, these appeals insist that the free rider is entitled to shirk his or her duty. They encourage workers to accept the higher wages and benefits that unions are able to negotiate compared to non-union workplaces, while not contributing financially to house and staff the organization, advertise its objectives, or mobilize the rank and file behind a common list of demands. Beyond shrinking the operational budgets of labor organizations, the right to work dulls the urgency of collective action. If workers are unwilling to contribute dues, they, just like anybody else, are unlikely to put themselves out in other ways as well. They might choose not to sign a public petition, attend a rally, or walk a picket line. In sum, the right to work encourages workers to abandon the organizational tools that unions use to pressure employers into paying a living wage, and then justifies the resulting power imbalance as a basic principle of free society. My book, The Origins of Right to Work, is about the bait and switch that has historically limited American workers' freedom under liberal capitalist democracy. Enticed by the American dream, they are simultaneously denied a collective route to fulfill its promise. I trace the present moment back to the time of Joseph Medill, when labor relations were being rewritten in the context of slave emancipation. It was then that the United States witnessed the birth of a political language that denied workers any rights beyond the ability to bargain one-on-one with their employers. This is not to say that American workers are forever doomed by history, or that a more progressive future was somehow foreclosed by the end of the 19th century. It is to say, rather, that after this founding moment, the right to work would remain a dominant pole in the ongoing debate over worker rights in this country. The context is different, of course, with each redeployment. The right to work reemerged during the so-called progressive open shop movement of the early 20th century as a means of checking the rise of socialism. It reappeared again in the late 1940s and early 50s to undercut organized labor at the height of its influence. And it is here with us now to wipe out the last vestiges of workers' collective power in the context of union decline. But its internal logic, the bait and switch, the individualistic rhetoric, and the imbalance of power remain largely unchanged since the 1860s. That logic, along with the peculiar context out of which it emerged, illuminates how the right to work operates in our own time. In this, one fact must be understood, namely that the birth of right to work was not inevitable. For both antebellum, that is pre-Civil War politicians and workers, were deeply critical of the individual wage contract, often calling it wage dependency or wage slavery because it made white men subservient to a master class. Workers preferred to be their own bosses, either as artisans with their own workshops or as farmers. And by and large, politicians supported that preference. Indeed, it was only in the years immediately after the Civil War that the individual wage contract became understood in mainstream political discourse as a safeguard to personal liberty. Politicians, in what became known as the doctrine of free contract, held that even the poorest white man was free because no one could make him enter into a wage contract unless he agreed to the terms. Yet even then, it was the political establishment that embraced that view, while workers rejected it as a fancy reinterpretation of wage slavery. If free wage labor is the central feature of capitalism, then the emerging industrial order had something less than the full support of antebellum Americans. Any adequate examination of workers' place in the transition away from slavery to liberal capitalist democracy must reconcile the widespread opposition to wage labor with the outpouring of support among Northern workers for the cause of free labor prior to and during the war. My book addresses the following puzzle. Why did the critics of wage work or wage dependency reorganize in favor of liberal capitalist democracy, only to reject it shortly thereafter? While other accounts of workers' place in American democracy emphasize the importance of an anti-labor legal system and social groups on the ground, classes, ethnic groups, voters, I highlight the role of political parties in organizing and disorganizing workers by class, race, ethnicity, and religion. Specifically, I argue that political parties pressed once adversarial class and ethnic voting blocs into the service of liberal capitalist democracy in the run-up to the Civil War, and then angered immigrant workers when they abandoned the critique of wage dependency in favor of the doctrine of free contract and its core implication, the right to work. To bring these dynamics to light, I chose Chicago as my case study. As the Queen City in the home state of both Abraham Lincoln and Stephen A. Douglas, the 1860 presidential nominees of the Republican and Democratic parties respectively, Chicago was a key theater in the political crisis over slavery. It is no coincidence, for example, that the Republicans chose Chicago to host the fateful Republican National Convention of 1860, which nominated Lincoln for the presidency. Douglas's primary residence outside of D.C. was in Chicago, and it was there that he died 2 months after South Carolina fired on Fort Sumter.
Thank you for joining us for this edition of Labor Vision. We appreciate your input and encourage your comments. Labor Vision can be seen on this channel 3 times each week: Tuesday at 7 p.m., Thursday at 8 p.m., and Saturday at 5 p.m.